Well, good morning. We are starting week 3 today of the Pantry Challenge for 2023. Week 3 starts today, so we're going to go ahead and look over what ended up happening in week 2, and I was able to capture some of those. So we've got some video and photos of some of the things that we made over the last week, and then we'll make our week 3 plan and talk about some other things coming up that I'm going to be doing as a part of this Pantry Challenge. So let's go ahead and talk about the meals that we had over the last week. I had planned 1 day for leftovers, and we actually ended up having 3 days of leftovers. So when we started week 2, we still had food left over from week 1. So we went ahead and had leftovers for day 1. And that was nothing in particular, so I didn't take any photos or anything of that. But day 2, we made a veggie and rice stir fry. One of the things that I'm realizing with this brown rice is that it takes so long to cook. What I'm planning to do whenever I plan to make brown rice is make a lot of it and then section it out and freeze it so that the next time, 2 times, maybe even 3 times that I need rice, brown rice specifically, I don't have to worry about the 45-minute prep time that it takes to make it. So what I did was I made enough rice for not only the stir fry, but then after it was all cooled down, I used my 1 cup measuring cup, put it upside down on a cookie sheet, and I froze it. So when I go for it, I know that every chunk of the rice is 1 cup. This is a great way to not only use that brown rice, but to cut down on the cooking time and truly make it a convenience food for your house. Well, another thing that I'm trying to do this Pantry Challenge is think about how I can double or triple what I'm making in a night to give myself, to slowly build up an inventory of freezer meals for myself or for our family. And so I was thinking the stir fry would be a great idea. When I was starting to look at the quantity of vegetables there, it was too much for us for 1 meal. And I thought that instead of having leftovers and just making so much more food at one time, I thought it would turn out better if we made our meal and then I just threw in a bag half of everything I chopped up. So I chopped up all of the mushrooms, even 1 summer squash came out to be quite a bit of food. So I put half that in our freezer bag. So I've got enough food for an entire other stir fry sitting in our freezer. And on nights we don't feel like cooking, especially when you're in a Pantry Challenge and you're trying to be so, diligent with certain aspects, having those convenience foods ready to go if you don't feel like cooking, helps things be successful. Day 3 and 4, I did not capture photos or videos because I thought they were pretty basic. One was our pancakes. I talked about those last week. We topped them with yogurt, and then we were able to use up that pint of frozen fruit sauce. And then for day 4, we made spaghetti. Actually, my son made dinner that night. And so it was a little salty, and so I ended up putting 2 extra pints of tomato sauce from our pantry shelves downstairs into the spaghetti, kind of to disperse that, and it was great. That also made a larger batch of sauce, which was fantastic because that is one of the meals we ended up having leftovers for to be able to eat twice. So day 5, we had lentil soup, and we love this lentil soup, and it comes from a cookbook called the New Moosewood Cookbook. The recipe written as is makes quite a bit of food, and so lately I have been making half a batch, and that seems to work very well. But I was thinking ahead for leftovers and thought, let's do this for 2 meals. We made a full batch. We don't put any dairy in it, so it's a vegan meal. I thought I was going to put some pork in there that I found in the freezer. So I used a pound of pork to make it a sausage lentil soup. Lentils are a really great source of protein. Really focusing on getting a lot of really good protein in our diet is a priority for us. And lentils may even have more protein than pork, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to double check that, but lentils are very high in protein. I do like to get our protein from as many different sources as we can, so I thought that would be a nice balance to put the sausage in there. Days 6 and 7 were kind of like coasting days. We had leftovers for both of those days. The one night we had the sauce left over from the spaghetti, and we didn't have quite enough noodles, so instead I made some bread to go with the sauce, and that was just sort of like the main carbohydrate, and it was really good. I ended up using the other Costco bread that I had in my freezer, so that moved that out. So not only did we use the leftovers up, we were also able to get some more of our freezer cleared. And then the last night of the pantry challenge, it's going to be tonight, because today's Saturday, this video is coming out on Sunday. We are going to have the rest of the lentil soup, because I'm not really a big fan of straight leftovers for the most part, and so I like when I can repurpose them and kind of create something new. I'm going to make we're going to use some rice and just put the soup over rice and have it like that instead. For those of you who are doing pantry challenges, did week 2 feel smoother to you than week 1? It definitely did here. And I think part of that was some of those outside variables that we had, and then just kind of getting into the groove and the routine. And I really hope that a lot of these things that we are starting to do during this pantry challenge are things that I can create as ongoing habits. I was able to make these delicious banana bread muffins one day this week, and I also got started sprouting some wheat berries. These sprouted after about a day and a half of soaking, and then I put them into the dehydrator to dry them out, so they are ready for lots of baking, adding to more muffins this coming week, and also baking bread. Really anything that we bake, we try to throw some of this sprouted wheat flour in place of all-purpose flour. Before we make the meal plan for this coming week, I wanted a quick chat about a project that I'm going to be doing this coming week that I will capture and put out. It probably won't be in the recap video. I'll probably make a separate video for it. I am planning to make a really big batch of broth. Now, this broth is not going to be a specific type. It's going to be like a catch-all. I have been collecting so many scraps lately, and my bag in my freezer is huge of vegetable scraps, so onion peels, the ends of the onions. When I cook and I'm chopping things, sometimes those extra onion peels that maybe are a little less desirable, I'll just go ahead and get rid of those because I'm going to put them in this bag that'll go in the freezer and go in broth. So I don't mind, kind of being picky when I'm actually chopping my vegetables, including like onions, for meals, because I know that anything that I don't use is going to go in my broth, and I would much rather use more of like a scrappy produce for broth than having to buy fresh onions and all these other things for it. So celery and celery tops are a fantastic addition to broth, so I've got all kinds of goodies for that. Now in my freezer we've got at least one turkey carcass, we've got from Thanksgiving, we've got beef bones. I'm not sure that we have any chicken. We may have some lamb, but I'm gonna just dig and find as much as I can to be able to just put it all in. I'm even gonna do something different with my pressure canner this time that I have never done before. So that's gonna be a little bit of an experiment. But yeah, I'm really excited because we are completely out of broth. So I was thinking this is perfect. I can use the freezer stuff, the freezer, bones, the scraps. We've got jar space now, shelf space now, and it's perfect. So it sort of is going to be like a canuary meets pantry challenge that I'm really excited about. So make sure to subscribe and or turn on notifications if you want to make sure that you catch the next canning video. Okay, so let's make our meal plan for week 3. I think we made a pretty good meal plan for this week. I pulled out a few things because I don't think that all of the food that I need to use this week should come out. One of the things I'm going to try to do again is a stir fry if need be. I'm going to leave one day for leftovers. If we need to, we'll wait on the stir fry because that's already like a pre-made convenient meal. So that's just in the freezer, and then I can use the rice, our brown rice that's frozen. I want to make a lentil loaf, which is sort of like a meatloaf, but it's made with lentils instead. And so I'm going to use more of these that I used for the lentil soup this week. I'm going to do a chili and cornbread, so I pulled out some beef. For the chili, I have some tomato sauce, some just diced tomatoes here. This also calls for about 4 cups of broth, so I'm actually going to make this meal later in the week after my broth project is done. And that way I can keep out some of the broth for the chili, and I don't have to can that because I'm going to be using it right away. Of all the meals, I think that's the only one this week that I will be using broth for, so everything else will get canned up. We're going to do another breakfast for dinner. And we're not going to do pancakes again. We'll do something else. Sometimes I do these baked pancakes. We do frittatas, smoothies, sometimes smoothies and toast if it's like a light meal, if we have like a bigger meal earlier in the day. So we'll just kind of keep that open-ended, but we have all the things for any of those options. We're going to also make a split pea soup. I have not used these split peas in a very long time. We have a lot of them and I need to address it. I did find a recipe for a split pea in chorizo, if that's how you pronounce it, a chorizo soup, but I do have ham in our freezer. So I think I'm going to do that recipe, but use ham instead. And I know the split pea and ham is more like the traditional. It's really good without any meat too. I've made it many times like that. There's a lot of vegetables in the soup too, so I'm excited to make that. And then the last thing I want to do is a coconut curry. So this will use more rice. It'll use this can of coconut milk that we had in our pantry. I pulled out some chicken that we'll put in there as well. And then for vegetables, probably put in onions, carrots, cauliflower, and broccoli. Onions and carrots are up here. Broccoli and cauliflower is in the freezer. So I think all of these meals together will be a really great week of pantry meals because they use a variety of things. I've noticed that a lot of my tomato products are leaving the shelf, but I feel like a lot of the other meals are using other things that we haven't used quite as much of. I know we just used lentils last week, but that's okay because we have a lot. And it's getting to this. We're using up some of that rice that I cooked when I made a lot extra last week. So it feels really good and I'm excited and energized for the week of meals coming up. The breakfast and lunches have been working really well too. We've had a great week of meals with that as well. This was full and I actually had about a pint jar extra. So this is all the granola we've eaten in the last week. So I'm sure that will finish out. And then next week I will get to make more. Measure out the split peas needed for the soup this week into this quart jar. I don't keep split peas up here in my upstairs pantry just because we don't use them that often. But because I know how much I need for my recipe, I'm just going to section it out. And then I don't have to get the bucket later this week. So that's pretty much all I have today. This week I will be sure to capture meals again. I'm thinking that especially I will capture the lentil loaf, split pea soup, the chili, because I captured I showed the stir fry this week and it would pretty much be the same thing. So those 3 I'll try to do for sure. Possibly the coconut curry. It's pretty simple. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit with me to recap last week, talk about an upcoming canning project this week, and also making our upcoming plan for next week. Let me know how your pantry challenges are going. I hope you have a wonderful day and we will see you soon.